Hi, my name is Lindsay Mashburn, and today we're going to talk about my Marzano course level 1, and we're going to talk about task 2, which is 3 goals and how I'm planning to implement those goals. So let's jump right into it. So my first goal that I wanted to do was celebrating student success. So this one seemed like a simple one to me at first, but when diving deep into it, I realized that there's some things that I can improve on in this area. Um, I feel like I celebrate student successes, but I don't necessarily celebrate them all how they want to be celebrated, communicate all of that with parents, and do it in a variety of ways. So my goal was, I talked about evidence of growth, and some of the evidence of growth that I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to track students' growth better so that I could see all of the growth. We could celebrate every point of growth for each student. I wanted to also do an inventory to see what kind of ways these students liked to be celebrated. I know some people like big and flashy, and some people they like words of affirmation. So I wanted to make sure that I celebrated each student with everything in the way that they wanted to be celebrated. I also wanted to, one of my evidence of growth was to celebrate the class as a whole. I've never really thought about this, but encouraging the class as a whole is also a motivator for the class without pinpointing certain students. So we're showing growth. One of my steps to be able to grow was going to create a Grow Getter board. With the Grow Getter board, we're setting goals, each student setting a goal for growth, and every time they meet it, they're going to take that off the board, we're going to celebrate it, and then we're going to put a new Grow Getter where they have a new goal that they're going to do. So I want to put their picture up there. I want to make it a big deal. I want to celebrate them. I post videos onto our class Facebook page of all the things that students are doing, whether it's academic or an emotional regulation strategy that they've mastered. I want them to be able to be celebrated for all the growth that they make, not only academically, but as a person as well. So with that, I looked at my survey results. And with my survey results, I noticed I did really well when I noticed students growing. So I did a good job noticing. I had a 3.9 on that one, which I was really proud of, with a standard deviation of 0.64. So it's not, I was proud of that one, but an area that I really wanted to work on was my teacher celebrates the final status of the class as a whole. That was my lowest score with a 3.4. And so with that one, the standard deviation was pretty big on that. It was a 0.94, so it was almost a whole point difference in the students' responses. So I want to make sure that I'm looking at the class as a whole with their final status, which is something that I need to improve on. Another one was my students, they marked lower on the survey on where it says that I give out certificates. After looking at this question, I realized we all had different perceptions of what certificate meant. So we looked at, with certificates, it's not just a piece of paper. So some kids thought a certificate was one of those big awards that you get at an awards assembly. And sometimes it might be, which is great. But it also could be a little note. I love to do little sticky notes for the students, and that can be considered a certificate. We do Apache Bucks where they get paid money to buy things for parties and rewards in the class. That's a type of certificate. So me acknowledging that and the kids acknowledging that was also going to be something that's going to help with my growth. The standard deviation on that one was the biggest standard deviation because we had a discrepancy on what certificates were. It was a 1.25. So that's something that I'm going to work on and be able to acknowledge with my kids. So after working on that goal, I have done a lot of different things. We've done a growth chart. We did our Grow Getter board. We were able to implement lots of things. So we do IXL diagnostic. I was able to pinpoint lots of different assessments in all the kids' growth. I'm very proud of my kids. I'm proud to say that I was able to acknowledge every single student in my class for growth, and not just growth in one area. We were able to grow lots of points, lots of ways. So every student has been celebrated at least 4 or 5 times in the last month, which is amazing. And I can see the difference in my classroom environment. Kids want it. If they set a goal, they're going to get it, and I'm going to help them with their action steps on how to get to that goal, how to achieve it, and how to celebrate. I'm also noticing that students are celebrating each other with their words, with high fives. When a student decides they're going to give their best or they mess up, it's still encouraging because we know we grow from our mistakes. So it's a culture, and I love that this was one of my goals. I'm seeing lots of progress. I can't wait to see the post survey on this to see just how much we are growing as a class on this. My second goal was reflecting on learning. With reflecting on learning, I chose this because I want students to be able to reflect on their own learning. I want them to see what they are good at. I want them to see their weaknesses. I want them to be able to identify how they can improve and areas they can improve on, and then what they can do to get there. That's a hard skill. So what my action steps on this one, evidence of growth, they're going to be able to self-evaluate, which is very difficult for 4th graders. They're going to explain areas that they can improve on with a specific skill or even standard. They're also going to identify areas of weakness. I'm going to help them with their level of understanding. We're going to implement the level of understanding chart, and we're going to talk about how that helps us and helps the teacher gauge where we're at so that we can move to a deeper level of understanding. I'm going to teach lessons on how to reflect on your learning and how they can set small goals in order to reach a big goal. So this is for the students reflecting on their learning. So when I looked at my survey, these scores were not as high as celebrating. They weren't low, but they weren't as high. But the standard deviation was higher as a whole. So when we're looking at these, my lowest area on my survey was that my teacher asks me to think about how I learn best. This one resonated with me because I do an inventory survey at the beginning of the year, but that's about it. I don't really have deep conversations throughout the year on how the students are progressing and how they're learning. So taking how they learn best and incorporating it into my instruction to help them reflect on their learning is something that I'm going to need to work on. The standard deviation there was a 0.97, so almost a whole point as well. So I am going to work really hard on doing more inventory surveys. I'm going to do 5-minute meetings with my kids where every week they get 5 minutes of my undivided attention. It might be the first 5 minutes of class, the last 5 minutes of class. It might be in the middle of class, but I'm going to try really hard to meet with every kid for 5 minutes and just talk to them about learning. What are you learning? What is good? I'm going to guide them through with a we do on how they can identify strengths and weaknesses and steps to be able to achieve their goals. So I'm really excited about that one. We'll see. We'll see on the post survey. So the last goal that I have is asking in-depth questions of reluctant learners. So this year I have a unique demographic. I am serving inclusion kids. So the vast majority of my kids are SPED or 504 students. So they have some learning needs and some learning challenges that we're working through, but we're showing so much growth. I'm really proud of them, but it's unique, it's different. So when we're talking about this goal of asking in-depth questions of reluctant learners, typically my SPED students are my reluctant learners. Their confidence is not as high as the rest of the kids. So it's my goal as their teacher to instill confidence in them and their abilities, in a comfort for them to be able to step out of their shell and try it. That mistakes are okay. But also with the celebrating success goal, we're adding in that with our in-depth questions so that we're celebrating them when they do something well. What I learned, the reason I chose this as one of my goals, is because I feel like as an educator, sometimes I don't call on those students. I don't want to single them out. I don't want them to be embarrassed when they get the question wrong. So instead of pushing them like I should be, I'm taking the more passive role. I'm stepping back and allowing them to be quiet in their learning, which is not okay. So for me, I did this survey, and I noticed there's some things my kids thought I did really well on. They said that they thought that I encouraged them to do their best, that every student, I always encouraged them to do their best. And this was my highest score. It was a 4.2. I was really proud of the score. The standard deviation on it was not overly high. It was a 0.54, which was great as well. I noticed that my lowest on this, though, was that I expect everyone to answer difficult questions, which goes right along with what I thought was going on in my lessons. That yes, I would call in students that were eager to learn, that would have their hand in the air, or I'd call in high-level learners to make sure that the rest of the class learned from their answers. But I wasn't always calling on the quiet ones. I wasn't always calling on the reluctant ones. Yes, I encouraged all kids to do their best, but as a teacher, I wasn't asking those difficult questions to my lower level learners or my reluctant learners. And I needed to do a better job of this. I needed to be more self-aware of this. So I plan to do this in lots of different ways. I'm going to be more strategic in my questioning. I'm also going to allow lots of opportunities for different types of answers. So they might answer on a computer where their answer is anonymous, or they might answer on a sticky note where it's also anonymous and they stick it on a board and we share out some of the answers as a class. I'm going to have them partner talk before they answer out loud so that they're able to build the confidence and be able to pick up ideas from their fellow peer and be able to use it as their answer so that they're confident and they're not as reluctant that their answer might be wrong or that we might not celebrate that they were able to do it. So there's lots of ways I'm going to do this. I hope to see that I am able to take the pressure off of them just a little bit, where they feel comfortable answering because they're prepared to answer with a lot of ideas, and they're able to work through their thoughts with a peer before they try it out loud. I'm hoping that building this confidence will also help them be successful with their learning. So can't wait to see the post results, and that'll be next.